When I started Diandra Reviews It All, it was out of revenge. I had to become a freelance writer for a need of excitement through my health issues. I had been bedridden for over a year, my body beginning its series of betrayals against my notoriously known energetic self. All my life, people found me as someone with enough excitement and physical tenacity for 10 people. Now I could barely get up or move like a single person. Hence, I picked up writing, particularly about the things I had most loved throughout my life: music, movies, and helping people. I'd been hired to work for free for a magazine called New York Theatric Guide. The exchange would be that I would get free shows for my free writing, and I accepted, happily so. I would take my cane and my exhaustion and waltz my ass to Broadway. At first, I was enamored. I was watching people do what I had always wanted to do with my life: perform, and now living in the biggest excuse that I had always had for why I didn't: my body. All my life, my mother, her family, my father, his ego, and a few school bullies had called me fat. When I wanted to become a model, I was too fat. When I wanted to get a boyfriend, I was too fat. When I wanted my father to respect me, I was too fat because weight indicated some form of character slob. Soon, my health issues had given me a level of fatigue that made it no longer matter I was thinner. I was tired. I sat at shows not just admiring the spectacle, but envious that I was not a part of it. Still, that never stopped me from approaching my work with praise and positivity because I didn't forget my humanity. I know what it is to be an artist, the deep, engraved insecurities we have from living in a world fueled by passion, but commodified by profit. I may have been the smallest voice, but I took pride in being the kindest one. One night, the owner and head writer of New York Theatric had emailed me to say that I was doing very well, that my topical section I had proposed, The Artist's Way, was thriving. It was my opportunity to interview artists based on their process and the impact of positivity in their life, in helping motivate them to further their art. It was also subconscious reflection, and in some ways, my immersion into a truth I had not yet fully acknowledged. My parents may have noticed that I was a great artist, but they did nothing to help me become one. And worse, my father did everything to sabotage it. I wanted to see how artists were different from me, perhaps less traumatized and more encouraged. Within days, people had begun requesting me personally, and that 50-year-old white man resented the ish out of it. What took him a lifetime to achieve, or rather barely achieve, I did in a day. He was not having it, and my little Latina ass was dismissed. It was my first lesson that even if you are paid for nothing, you can actually get fired for nothing too. That night, the same night of my birthday, I was so angry I started Diandra Reviews It All as a complete middle finger to anyone that had the audacity to say no to me. It's a quality I wish to revive in myself, and at the time did not know would be dying. The next few years, the Andrew Reviews It All would rise as some sort of cultish, quiet, but deeply appreciated website where artists could just have fun and be praised. I refuse to review things I do not like, and trust me, they will be trashed by someone else. Instead, I try to approach everything with appreciation, love, believing that absolutely everything can connect with one community, and all I have to do is just link it to its proper community. I would go to everything: a punk mosh pit, a Victorian art gallery, food festivals, even a tap dancing competition. I didn't care. Everything in this room has world to be in this room. Has room to be in this world. And could really fill up someone. But as the years passed by, my health issues continued, and I did not make a single move towards my dreams. I felt off. I never stopped loving artists and their art. I never stopped wanting to praise them, but this silence began to overcast me as I realized I was getting older and healthier and farther from taking my chance. I'd fallen into the same foolish trap that a lot of other critics had fallen into as well: the belief that we could circle what we want and think that it is the same as centering ourselves in what we want. Not one critic that I met did not somehow wish to be a writer, director, or actor. Sometimes I knew that the reason they gave negative criticisms was out of envy. They wished to be on that stage, talking about their film, but their courage at best could only be sent in the form of a press request. I did not judge them because I was in the same boat of wishing, but I did judge them for not seeing how much their writing was coated by envy. Nobody on that stage was doing anything that we could not do. They only had the energy and confidence, of which confidence gives you energy and vice versa. But we were getting older and farther from confidence. I still do Deandra reviews, but I recognize I need to do me. I'll never stop her. I'll take my breaks. I'll grow my healthy distance. But now, when I return to her, it's because I don't expect her to be the next Rolling Stone, which for while I wanted her to be, especially because so many of the major magazines don't care. In fact, it is because they've become so big that they don't care. I never stopped caring for artists. Never. I never will. But I realize if I don't care for myself, what I'm really doing is being performative. I don't want to do that. If I'm going to perform, it has to be on the stage. All right, let's discuss. So yeah, I am the head writer, owner, and editor of Diandra Reviews It All. I still do Diandra Reviews It All, but I backed away because of something that I used to. It's always weird when you grow up in a household that is very like my mother was always criticizing me. And because she was so certain in her judgments, I kind of took them on as, well, she must be right. Because, uh, when you are being made insecure, and by your nature, you have your own insecurities, you have your strengths, your weaknesses. Somebody who's strongly opinionated, you're going to be like, well, maybe they're seeing something I'm not seeing. And I think she thought that maybe it was, she always thought I was just depressed for no reason. Or, and then I thought, is it envy? Like maybe I'm just being envious. And I really think it was just plain old burnout. Like I think I know I became exhausted from living this life of giving, 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 and smiling when I'm not happy, and supporting when I feel shaken inside. I and it's something that my friend, she and I wrote an episode because I have so much and I don't post. Girl, I'm getting confidence. Um, she was talking. She had been in this 10-year relationship with this guy. They had one baby, never got married. And she used to love to read. And she realized that midway from this really draining relationship, she stopped reading. Like she hasn't read a book, like I guess in 5 to 7 years. And that was so integral to her personality growing up. And we were talking about how you're unhappy because the things that make you happy by your very nature don't anymore. Like I love listening to music and watching movies, but I'm so tired of not doing it for myself, like not being the artist featured, not being the actress that auditions, that I kind of shut down and I just can't enjoy anything because I stopped doing anything for me. And I thought that was a good girl. I thought that was healthy. I thought that was my normal because that's how I was taught by the women of my life. If you're unhappy, as long as everybody's happy, at least you're being humble. Like it was just a very twisted form of virtue. And then the men in my life, like my dad, just completely took advantage of that very patriarchal, misogynistic viewpoint. And that guy, obviously there was a level of racism and jealousy in his dismissal of me because I really do feel like, here's this guy, 55-year-old, 51, he was in his 50s, white guy that has been struggling to make his own website the biggest thing to hit the universe, but still was getting, like, he did not have that many views or social followers for how many Broadway shows he was getting. He just had connections. And it's like, I have the resources, I have the connections, and here comes this kid who has the talent, the creativity, the tenacity. It will challenge you. In the same way, the fact that he had the resources, the connections challenged me because we kind of needed each other. All your resources mean nothing if you don't have the talent, and all your talent could mean nothing if you don't have the resources. So it was this mutual resentment, and I was insulted because I was working for him for free. And he literally wrote in the email, "You're doing so well, stop." I was giving, like my work was technically his, but it also wasn't. Because I think it really triggered him how fast I was becoming known, that I was being personally requested. And I noticed that in the next week, he kept my section, but he was giving it away to other writers. And it was just such a jealous bent. And within months, the website would disappear. He just kind of disappeared and just took the loss. And good for him. You deserved it. Anyway, long story short, um, when I started Diandra Reviews It All, I had begun, this journey of unhealth. And I had auditioned for a year or two in theater, and I got some gigs, but auditioning was just such a turnoff for me. And as it is for most actors, it's just a cycle of humiliation and criticism and just overthinking and not understanding what they want, and them not actually being clear. One of the most surprising things, I think, for me in terms of auditioning is how many people like just aren't clear for what they want. They may have the image, but they don't have the character, they don't have the depth. And it's kind of crazy. I don't know. When I did directing, I was so clear about my vision that it's kind of funny to see how unclear people are. And that is the essence of branding, right? Anyway, I started to get unhealthy, and he really was an opportunity, and in some ways launched me into this side of me that I had all my life. I was a good writer, but I was a good writer to get A's. And whatever I wrote for myself. It was the one talent that I never really tried to make money off of or tried to turn professional, because I defined myself as a singer and actress, and my studies were ways to make money so that my parents could be happy with me. And if you are in America, you realize that half of us are in debt and we didn't even work in what we studied. So happy ending for all of us. Um, I did Diandra Reviews It All, and the first few years were great. But the problem is, there are thresholds that you do have to measure yourself by. And I wasn't getting the views or the access. They say that with websites, it's 2 to 3 years to grow before they start requesting you. And I did get requested very often and almost within months. But what I will say is that it's a lot of work to not get paid. And it's even more work and underpayment when it's not what you want. And I think I didn't realize that I would eventually burn out, because even doing things that you love eventually becomes numb to you if you're not living life the way you want. I want to sing, I want to act, I want to fall in love, I want to go out, I want to have stable friendships, I want to have a stable self body image. And I was doing none of that. I had none of that. I had not even started the process of healing. So watching movies and music, yes, it was all the things that I love, but it was also distractions from not becoming who I wanted to be and who I would love to be. And eventually that's what burnout is. It's this realization that at best you aim for distractions you love, but you never aim to become the person you would love to be. And eventually those distractions are not going to do what their job was. And Deandra Reviews It All was a really great distraction, and in some ways a little revenge plot, because I was just so insulted at the douchery of this guy and the jealousy, really. And I thought, am I leaving Deandra Reviews It All, taking this break, or feeling burnt out because I'm jealous? And I've never been like that. My father was a man who loved everybody to love him and to think that he was great, and he liked people being jealous of him. Little did they know that he was snorting half the earth and having sex with it too. But that that made me disgusted with the feeling. And it's a very natural feeling. And I'm trying to give myself grace for when I feel it. Like I will feel anger, but my mother would punish me if I felt angry at her. I will feel jealousy, but my father, like that fed his ego. Like he wanted me to be so jealous of how well he treated his other kids. But instead, what it did was it disgusted me. And it made me realize this guy, if this guy can behave, but he chooses to misbehave with me, it's that he doesn't love me. And eventually he said it. What I felt is that, and it's something that The Artist's Way, which by the way, I had no idea I didn't even know about that book, The Artist's Way, when I named the article The Artist's Way. So for grand irony, but I started reading The Artist's Way, I think, like a few months ago. I read it, and it was talking about jealousy as a map. And I've always felt like that. Like, I think what I need to revive in me is I used to be a doer. And whenever I felt jealousy, I just did what the other person was doing. If I was jealous that somebody was acting, then I would act. If I was envious at somebody's dedication, then I would become dedicated to the gym. I took envy as a motivator, and I became just so numb, so disconnected to me and my desires, because when I wanted something that was different from my parents or different from my partners, I would get so punished and shamed that I killed desire, or at least I killed my permission to have it, to feel it, to move in it. And that is just such a recipe for burnout. And I was shocked when I didn't say it out loud, but I showed it. I didn't want to do Diandra Reviews at all anymore. I had had enough underpayment, overwork, enough health issues, that the little energy I had, I just wanted to keep it to heal myself. And didn't realize that healing is also doing what you want, which is what I'm doing now. But I will always appreciate and participate in Deandra Reviews at all. I just think that what I'm doing now is kind of reassessing my relationship with things, and kind of seeing that if you have no identity for yourself, and if you're not doing anything in your life for you, you will burn out. You will become physically unhealthy, even. And I got to change that, because I look at my mother, I look at my grandmother, and then I look at my dad, who he may poop himself every day, but the man's in business class, I always say, you know, I really do got to take care of me. And that's what daddy recovery is. I'm recovering from the fact that I had a father who was so greedy and malevolent, but he succeeded materially. And I had a mother who was almost obsessively other centered, to the point where it was performative on her end too. And she lost materially. And I refuse to be either. So join me on my journey, subscribe to all, and I've got some developments coming up. Get excited.